All right, second hour kicking off on this Friday morning. Appreciate you all tuning in, however and wherever you may be tuning in from this morning. We got a busy couple hours coming up here. We're going to be catching up with Brandon Berg as he's taking a break from covering all the local playoff stuff. So we'll get an update on all that stuff with him. We got Brewers chat coming up. We're going to do a little bench start cut at the close to the 8 o'clock hour. Our Carpet City Flooring Center spotlight, cream of the crop, fired up, all that fun stuff here. But we kick off this hour as we usually do every Friday with our good friend Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, for a little inside the training room. Austin, I'm going to start off with Brock Purdy again with you. Apparently, he still hasn't had surgery. And now it sounds like they're hoping in the next week or so to have it. But is it normal for the swelling to still be there? I mean, we're almost, what, 2 months, a month and a half from when he suffered that injury to his elbow, or is that still normal kind of with him?
I mean, you can certainly see swelling at this point. To the point where it would delay a surgery, yeah, I'd say that's a little more atypical.
So what?
But
Oh, sorry.
I don't. Have they went out and said that as the reason? I haven't seen that in the news.
I guess most of it was my assumption was it was still
Yeah.
swollen in the neck because he hasn't had
Okay.
surgery yet. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, that's because I think they're talking about too, like if he doesn't get it by, in a week from now, do the 49ers have to look at a different quarterback option potentially?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big things that you have to kind of navigate when you're treating athletes is that there's this, these timelines essentially. So you have these surgeries, the recovery process, and you need to kind of look at that and think about both the short term, like how do we get them ready for surgery, but also how do you treat them in a way that gets back in the season.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm reading it a little bit here. Was supposed to have surgery on February 22nd. The day before his surgery, news broke that his procedure would be delayed until at least early May. So, I mean, it's even a little bit further
Really?
down the road. But John Lynch also indicated that Purdy's surgery would happen during the first week of March. So you got different timelines right there. Kind of unknown, it
Hmm.
seems like.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, remember we talked about the procedure that they're hoping to be able to do is the internal brace, right?
Hmm.
And that's essentially trying to get his body to heal with that brace augmenting or supporting it. And generally, those you do in a more kind of an acute, subacute fashion, meaning you want to do it early on. So to wait till May, I don't have any real explanation for that, unless they're trying to ride it out and say maybe we get a new MRI and it shows that it healed enough and we can avoid surgery altogether. But that's playing a little bit of Russian roulette, right? I mean, you're
Hmm.
either going to win or lose big time.
Right, exactly. Man, I mean, it was again, it didn't look like we didn't even know he had an injury during that game until, he wasn't out on the field there, but must have just hit in that
Mm-hmm.
right spot or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's that hit with his throwing, right? You saw his
Yeah,
elbow come through. In hindsight, they showed it, and quarterbacks get hit like that pretty frequently, right?
right.
I mean, there's always bang bang plays. They're following through, so you see it with hand fractures hitting the helmet, or like this elbow or shoulder injury.
Hmm. Uh, Moving to baseball here quickly because Brewers outfielder Tyrone Taylor, he I think he got that platelet rich plasma, the injection in his elbow, they're calling it, but he's missing
Okay.
at least a month. Yeah. Why is it about a month for like an injection in his elbow for that platelet rich plasma they're calling it?
Yeah. So platelet-rich plasma, essentially, you take the blood, you separate it, and you're trying to take the portions that have, the platelets and growth factors, essentially. So what we're doing is when we inject those back into the body, we're trying to stimulate a healing response. So sometimes you'll do that for like a chronic tendonitis issue. You can do it for bursitis issues, even ligament injuries, things like that. You're trying to get to heal in, but essentially what you're trying to do is get the body to heal itself. So it's very different than like a cortisone injection where you're just trying to suppress inflammation. You're actually trying to stimulate healing, and the body just doesn't heal in hours and days, right? It's weeks and months. So when you do this, you're really saying, look, we're going to commit to the healing process, and this is an adjunct to it.
Hmm. Interesting. So, and that's kind of a common thing. Well, like I know I've talked to with you quite a bit about with those type of injections, right?
Yeah, they're gaining a lot of popularity.
Hmm.
There's no question there. So you have the whole gambit of these what we call biologic injections. So there's the PRP, there is allogenic stem cells, autogenic stem cells. So those are different biologic injections that are really, again, trying to get the body to heal itself. And I mean, it's going to be a huge part of medicine in the future. We're still relatively in the early kind of learning phase of it, but it is, again, it's becoming more and more popular, both certainly in the treatment of athletes, but even in, quote, lay people. The problem is insurance doesn't cover it very often, so a lot of people, it's out of pocket. So that's why you're seeing a lot of athletes. And if you remember, when this first caught on, a lot of them were going to Europe to get it done.
Yeah.
But it's certainly now it's done stateside.
LeBron James, maybe the most popular injury out there right now in the sports world. They're calling it. He suffered a tendon injury in his right foot. Now he said he heard a pop after he tumbled to the floor. Can you maybe explain like where that tendon is or what tendon injury he might have suffered in his foot?
My suspicion is it would be one of the perineals. So the perineals are a set of tendons that run on the side of the leg. And so when people roll their ankles, it's often an injury that goes along with those. So it can be relatively mild, or they can be relatively serious. If it was in conjunction with what we call retinacular tear, so the perineal tendons can sublux out of the groove that they're supposed to be in, then it's going to be probably a surgical treatment. And so in that setting, it's going to be, that'd be a more serious injury. And I can promise you he's had an MRI, of course, to diagnose it. And the fact that it hasn't shown that is a good sign. So hopefully it's a really small split. They're hoping a little bit of TLC and it'll bounce back. I think I heard a 3 to 4 week timeline. So that's often kind of what it takes to let these things heal in.
Yeah. So would there be any like surgery? Is that an option for something like that if it doesn't heal in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, if it doesn't come to it, certainly surgery on, if it is a perineal tendon, is not a rare one. So we certainly see that, and so that would probably be, not probably, it would be season ending. So I'm sure they're hoping it doesn't come to that.
Right, exactly. Dr. Crow joining us here this morning for our Inside the Training Room. I know we've kind of talked about it. I know one of our lines that or that you say is that everybody heals differently. Not everybody's on the same timeline. But we look at this guy Giannis here for a second. Obviously we talked about him a couple years ago with that knee injury, and it looked like, oh boy, it was going to be bad. And he comes back and the Bucks win the championship. He has a sprained wrist. He comes back quicker, goes out with they're calling it a quad, contusion. He misses a game, he comes back, and and kind of the thing the last couple of weeks he's been asked even too is like, how are you coming back so quickly? And he kind of had a little fun with it, but he said that he just he heals better than a lot of other people out there. Is there something
Mm-hmm.
to it that some people, do you think, just is it genetics? Is it something in their recovery process? But obviously everybody heals differently. Is it possible to pinpoint why these players can heal better than others, I guess?
I mean, there's certainly something to that. I mean, I think that there are certainly truths to it. So let's say, for example, people who are young. So I mean, we take care of pediatric patients, so teenagers, single-digit age kids. I mean, they heal incredibly fast. And then you have the far end of the spectrum, people in their 70s, 80s, 90s. They just don't heal as quickly. Everyone else in the middle, there's certainly a gradient to it. But I will say, I mean, there are people who just heal faster and heal better. And so there's got to be some genetics to it. Certainly those guys are going to be optimizing everything that they do. So whether it's nutrition, whether it's other augments for healing, I mean, all the things that they're going to do, they're going to be going full press into it, where a lot of people just don't have those resources at their disposal. So again, yes, there's certainly some genetics to it. There's the fact he's relatively young, that all plays a role to it. And there's certain things that, as you come back from certain injuries, there's a bit of like, okay, we let you go back on the court when you feel ready. And some people are able to push through stuff more than others. So, we've talked about this in the past. There's times where we as physicians have to hold people out. There's other times where we say, look, when you're ready to go, you're ready to go. And some people just have, whether it's just, their toughness or whatever you want to call it, are able to get back out there a little quicker.
Did you get a chance, or I don't know if you saw some of them, but the NFL Players Association report cards, did you hear about those coming out the last couple days?
Yeah, I did. I saw a couple clips. I think the Vikings were pretty high on that list if I
Number
remember
one.
when I just saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no big deal.
Yeah, hey, I mean, you look at facilities. I mean, that was a big thing because their categories. A
Yeah.
lot of it had to deal with health and training staff and strength coaches, nutrition. I mean, that's where a lot of it is. And I know you've talked about it with Minnesota. I
Hmm.
mean, the orthopedic center that's right over there.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's called, right? So
Hmm.
the TCO is their major sponsor, so all that the orthopedic surgeons and training staff are certainly integrated in. I mean, I think every team certainly takes the health of their athletes seriously. I mean, if you want to be absolutely pragmatic about it, it's a huge investment, so they're going to want to do it. But you think they're also fans in their own right and want to see their team succeed, so there's that as well. So, I mean, there are certainly teams that have newer and older facilities, but I think that every team takes the health of their athletes incredibly seriously. But it's certainly good to see recognition for that, and maybe some other teams that are falling behind are going to do that. And again, it's important for not only their performance but just the physical and mental health of these athletes.
Well, and I think I would be surprised if there's not any, follow up on this, but I don't know if you had a chance to see like the Kansas City Chiefs were actually ranked 29 out of 32. And one of the
Oh.
maybe the eye-opening ones were the player respondents said they feel discouraged from reporting their injuries. They do not feel they get the level of personal care that they should, and they fear retribution for speaking up for better care. So I got to imagine there's got to be
Hmm.
some follow-up to that one, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, at least the NFLPA will probably have something to say about that.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, that's certainly really that's the worst case scenario. I mean, I think really that harkens back to the concussion when that first came out. I think that was one of the biggest injuries that people were silent about, and it's one that's, I guess, if you will, it's easy to be silent about it. You have a broken leg, it's kind of hard to hide that, right?
Right.
But a concussion, you can try, not report symptoms because a lot of them are. I mean, if you have a headache, they can't put a headacheometer to your head, right? You have to self-report that. So anytime you have to have something that's self-reported, you have to be able to have the ability for the athlete to do it. And then certainly if they feel retribution, that is not a healthy environment by any means. And hopefully that's some kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding. But if it's a theme, you absolutely have something that can and should be looked at.
Right, and I was just thinking too, because that's coming off of the whole Patrick Mahomes high ankle sprain. How many times did we see him on the sideline kind of fighting to go in and get an X-ray or an MRI? But
Yeah, absolutely.
one thing too that I was just kind of curious because some of the players were saying 61%. I'm looking at Kansas City here. 61% feel they have
Yeah.
enough PTs. Is that personal trainers?
Yeah, I would imagine that's what they're alluding to. I mean, I
Okay,
guess the other could be physical therapists, but both of them are going to be on those teams. So I I don't know exactly which one they're alluding to. It could be either one of those, frankly. So
gotcha.
either a personal trainer or a physical therapist.
And then
In this context, maybe more of a physical therapist, but hard to say for sure.
gotcha. And then ATC, do you know what that one would be?
Yep, athletic trainer.
Athletic
So
trainer.
that's
Okay.
that's the athletic trainers. Yep, yep.
Okay.
So the ATCs are the athletic trainers, and so I mean those are going to be the most. I mean they're like the front lines for us. So anytime team physicians like myself that you're taking care of teams, your front line are the ATCs, and having a ATC that knows what they're doing is an incredible tool. They are good, diagnosticians. They come to us with problems, and so really they're an excellent liaison between the athletes and the physicians. And so, a team they're really the foundation of any sports medicine team. Truthfully,
Interesting. Yeah, this is I'm curious to see because this is the first time they've done this report card for the players. So I'm curious to see kind of maybe, now that some of this is out there and exposed, the different changes in the healthcare for these teams.
I mean that's obviously the hope is that maybe that'll result in some of that, right? Some of these
Right.
teams that are falling behind, or perhaps the teams that are excelling, other teams can look and say, hey, what are you guys instituting? How are you guys doing this? To create an environment where athletes feel like they're taken care of in an appropriate fashion.
Yeah, I know one of them for Green Bay, one of the ones that they kind of fell short was, some players felt the need that they needed more, on staff there because they had to go outside the facility to find, like, physical therapists and that sort of thing too,
Hmm.
so something to kinda keep an eye on, which is kinda
Yeah,
interesting
I
because
mean
Bell and Health
that's
is right there too and a big partner.
yeah. I mean, I think I'm not going to say anyone's not speaking the truth. I find that hard to believe. I mean, the resources that these teams have. I mean, I've I've been, not directly affiliated, but I know team physicians, and the resources that they have at their disposal are unparalleled. So maybe they just don't feel like they have the ability to easily access that, or perhaps they're out of town and they want someone to come to them. I don't know, like in off season, because during season, I mean, there's the medical staff are huge, rightfully so.
Right. Yeah, and maybe it's just communication part of it too. So, communicating to those
Certainly.
players. So, all right, Dr. Crow, appreciate it as always, buddy. Good chatting with you and catching up with you. You have a good weekend, and we'll chat again soon.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. There you go. Dr. Crow inside the training room, Triple Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. We're going to take a really quick break here, and then B's going to hop on. See if he's got a breather from catching up and covering all the local playoff stuff in our area. Right now, if you head to Mike's Star Market and pick up some of those brat packages, we've got the finalists out there. If you buy 2 packages of any flavor, you'll get a Silver Spring mustard for free while supplies last through tomorrow. So once you pick up one of those packages, don't forget to head to our website after you grill them up, fry them up, taste test them, and vote on your favorite. Purchase is going to help backyard dreams as well. So good stuff right there for this weekend. Pick up some brats from Mike's Star Market, west side of Eau Claire. All right, B. You've been pretty busy. This is your busy time of year, as we've been saying for a while now. But let's start off with girls hoops. We want to start off there,
Yeah.
just because last night McDonald were at 1 win away from going to state.
Yes,
Right
they
now?
picked up a 61-57 win over Prairie Farm in an excellent game at Tri High. I think a game that a lot of people kind of expected as far as, just being a very tight, competitive kind of back and forth game with two
Mhm.
really good teams. But ultimately, in the final 2 minutes, there was a basketball team in Wisconsin that was able to close out a game strong and hit its free throws and come away with some points and some defensive stands to get a win over a really good opponent. So,
You had to
that
go
was kind.
there, huh?
I had
Yeah.
to, but that was the kind of the way it worked for McDonald last night.
Mhm.
Trailed by 7 early on in the game, by 5 in the second half, and was able to just kind of work their way back. I mean, it's a veteran team,
Mhm.
especially the three most experienced players. I mean, they've got a lot of big game experience. I think this was kind of one of those games where that showed.
So they are gonna be going up against, Siren
Siren, yes,
in
in
Barron.
Barron tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, and Siren's a 3 seed in their
They are.
bracket.
They put a whooping on the top seed South
South Shore,
Shore.
yeah.
So they're. I mean
22
that.
points they beat them
Yeah,
by?
that's a Siren team that's going into that game with a ton of momentum. I think they won like 10 games in a row. So
Man.
that's gonna be another tough challenge for McDonald on the with a state trip awaiting the winner.
And then, another good one in D4, Colfax and Neilsville.
Yeah, yeah. Colfax picking up the overtime win. And I got a chance to see Colfax last Saturday when they beat Cadott, and it's a Colfax team that is a lot different than from where it started the year.
Mhm.
It came into the year with really not much of in the way of experience, but they kind of took their lumps a little bit throughout the year, and they've been playing really well down the stretch and beat a good Phillips team.
Yeah.
That's those Colfax teams, over the years are always going to be well coached and kind of ready for the challenge. Joe Doucette was the coach for so long. Now his daughter Courtney is the head coach. She's doing a really good job there as well. And yeah, they're a game from state, and they've got a tough challenge awaiting against unbeaten Neilsville, who knocked out Fall Creek. So
And
and
that's a
that's a
program.
and they, yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And that's a game that the neutral site is still to be determined. Initially, it was scheduled for Colfax, but the WI in more recent years has gone away from having teams host set like you're not going to host a sectional semi. That's
Right.
why like Memorial's game was with Nina was moved. That's why Menominee and Toma got moved to Memorial. Like that's just something they've done in more recent years, and
Right.
right now they're still kind of looking for that venue. But I would imagine, given the location of those two teams, it's probably going to be somewhere around here.
Mhm.
Maybe Claire or
Right.
Chip or something would be fair, because usually once you're getting off on the 29, you're not seeing a lot of the the other Clover Belt schools kind of hosting those games. So
Right. Especially one with, to go to state, probably a bigger gym and that sort of
yeah,
thing too, so.
yeah. So and then I just looked on the WI website and it was TBD, but I'm sure we'll get an answer to that sometime this morning.
Division 3, you got Somerset, taking on West
Yeah,
Salem.
West Salem picked up a grinder of a win over Elk Mound. That was a tie game at halftime, and two really good teams. I think two teams, I think 25 wins each,
Yeah.
something like that. I mean, those are two darn good teams, and that's often the case once you get to this level. Great year for the Mounders.
Mhm.
Obviously a bit of a bummer for how it ended for them, but still a great year for that program. A lot of highs in that year. They won the Dun St. Croix, taking the regional title, and just a lot to be proud of for them, even if it kind of came up with a disappointing end.
Yeah. Division 2, you got Menominee taking on Lakeland, and this is being held at, good old Medford.
We'll go Dan Kasper territory.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting because there's a lot of Medford connections with Menominee. And then Lakeland, of course, is in the conference of Medford.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that should be a good
Yeah,
one there
Menominee
too.
picked up the win over Toma, and it's been an interesting year for Menominee, because remember they went to state last year, but several of the players from that team graduated. There was a fair amount of seniors on that team, but this is kind of another one of those teams, a bit like Colfax, that kind of you know picked it up as it went along. Maybe you take a look at their record, you may say, well, it's maybe not the strongest record in the world, but they're playing well right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna they're a game away. I mean, you get to
Yeah.
that sectional final. I don't care what your record is, whatever. Like you've had to work to get there. There's no
Right.
easy paths to get that far.
And then Division 1, as you kind of mentioned, Memorial did fall last night.
Yes,
So.
but a heck of an effort. I mean, they were up on Nina
Mhm.
at halftime. Really gave a Nina team that was one of the top teams in the state, and both the AP and the with sports coaches poll, all they could handle with a UConn recruit.
Yeah.
On their, I mean, that is
When you say UConn recruit in girls basketball, that's saying something.
That's like saying, hey, this guy's going to Duke.
Yeah.
Or this guy's going to
Kentucky,
or North Carolina.
Kansas,
Like there's just a certain level of you got to be
Mhm.
you got to be this tall to ride this ride. Well, you got to be this good to go play at UConn.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yep. So, but yeah, you mentioned just still a fantastic year for Memorial too. So, But it sure seems like girls basketball where there's going to be a lot of representation, or a chance to have a lot of representation.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams around here that are still in action, and that's
Mhm.
been the case the last few years. And yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. I mean, it's looking that way. We'll see how it ultimately kind of develops tomorrow, but yeah, it's a good time, and yeah, I think it's just a representative of what's been a lot of really good basketball that's played here during the regular season.
Yeah. So tonight, a lot of teams starting off their boys basketball postseason
Yes,
one.
the boys playoffs started Tuesday, but there's a lot of teams, especially like D1, that they're in action
Right.
tonight.
Like Chi High Superior, right?
Chi heads north to Superior. Eau Claire Memorial's the top seed in that section. They host a game. I think they host
Oshkosh West.
Well, Oshkosh West. They played
Yep.
Rapids. That's right. I got
Yep.
that mixed up. But yeah, there's a lot of games going on around here in action.
Got Hudson as a 2 seed on the bottom of that, taking on Wausau West.
I think
Division.
Fall Creek. Oh, you're gonna. I'm sure.
I was going to go through because we got. We want to talk about another Medford.
I was gonna say,
Menominee.
yeah, you got Medford
Medford's taking
hosting
on Menominee.
Yeah.
At Medford, which I was having a little fun with Coach Mike Sins because a member of his staff is he has Jason Jacobson on his staff.
Mhm.
Jason graduated from Medford. He was a couple years ahead of me. So I'm like, which red is Jason going to be donning now? Is it going to be the Menominee red or the Medford red?
The shade matters.
Exactly. Which shade there, Jason? So, but that should be a fun one there too. Medford, and then Rice Lake and River Falls, right below that.
Couple familiar Big Rivers foes battling it out.
Yep, exactly. So that's kind of D2, some of our local ones there. And then D3, Osceola taking on St. Croix Falls, Bloomer taking on Baldwin Woodville. That seems like that should be a good one.
I think so. And then Bloomer to me is a bit of a kind of a sneaky team. And there was one other team, and I'm sure we'll get to them, that I thought when I saw the playoff pairings come on, I'm like, that's a team that could really make a run, and they're still alive. But I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit in a little bit. But yeah, Bloomer, like, they're a team that they do some things I think that are conducive to being successful in the playoffs. They play good defense. They've got some size, and they've got someone that can take over a game. And Dominic Schwarzenberger. I mean, someone that's put up 50-some points. I know he's leading Chippewa County in scoring. I think he led the Western Clover Belt in scoring in the regular season. And that's it's now look, from here on out. There's no easy buckets for them. They're going to in all likelihood be on the road, but they're a team that's capable of piling up some good wins. I mean, that's a team that has played McDonald and Fall Creek this year as well as anybody. They beat Fall Creek once, and the other 3 games against McDonald and Fall Creek were all, I think, 4 points or fewer, as far as their differential. I mean, there's just not a lot of teams that can say that. I'm not sure there's another team that can say that.
Right. Looking at I got to mention Colby because of the in-laws. Colby taking on GET. Elk Mound, the 2 seed, taking on Mauston.
Yeah, like the girls team, that Elk Mound boys team having a good year. They swept the Dunn St. Croix conference championships this year. A team that can pour in the points. So yeah, that's another team that we could be talking about still hanging around at this point next week.
Looking at D4, there's some interesting games. It looks like on here. You got Unity at Shell Lake, Washburn, Cumberland, Cameron, Tech Warehouser, Ladysmith as a 2 seed taking on Shawamigan. Fall Creek, the 1 taking on Colfax.
Yeah.
Spring Valley, Melrose, Mindoro, Regis getting the upset over Osseo Fairchild, and then Neilsville taking on Durand, Arkansas too.
Yeah, there's gonna be some fun ones there. There's already now, but especially going forward tomorrow night, like generally once you get to like regional finals, that that's where you seem to have fewer blowouts. You're always going to have some, but but still tonight there are some really good matchups I think that are going to be.
Yeah. Looking at D5 then, is this coming up with one of your teams here? Why does it feel like McDonald and Rib Lake play a lot too?
Because they do. I've seen those 2 teams play so many times over the years. Because there's a stretch, I think, like 3 years in a row they played in the sectionals, or like 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Because I think it was always like 3 out of 4, and it was always at Chautauqua. That's just the way it worked. But yeah, McDonald picked up a win over Gilman to start it. I mean, they're the top seed, they're the top ranked team in D5, and but they're going to have some challenges awaiting them coming up here pretty quick. You mentioned Rib Lake. Rib Lake knocked off Turtle Lake, who was an 8 seed and kind of a bit of a sneaky, dangerous team in there. But
you got Owen Withy going up against Clear Lake too. They could face the winner of that one. Bruce is the 2 seed in that one, going up against Clayton. Your Thorpe got a victory over Eau Claire Emmanuel Lutheran.
And that was the team I was kind of alluding to earlier, that when I saw that they're, with as an 11 seed, I'm like, I thought they were, at least just on the surface, they're better than that. Remember, this is computer generated. So, but again, they're another team that I think they do some things that kind of lead you to have success in the playoffs. I mentioned that, playing defense, the competition they play. I mean, they're a team that right at the end of the regular season, took McDonald to the limit when McDonald had everything to play for an outright conference title. They've got, some good athletes that can, have some big games scoring wise with Aiden Rosemeyer and Logan Hansen and Brady Stewart. They're just a team that I think at this point they're not going to see anything they haven't already seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a team that, again, would not surprise me if they're playing for a regional championship tomorrow night as an 11 seed, which, may surprise some people on the outside looking in, but it wouldn't be a big surprise to me.
Well, wasn't it a few years ago they made that run to state that they were kind of maybe a lower seed?
They were a bit, when they won state in 2014, they were a little bit of a lower seed, and they kind of got hot at the right time with some good talent. But, in 2020, they made a run to sectionals too. And they lost to McDonald. That was that was ultimately the last game of the year, but yeah.
That's right. Yeah. The COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, there's got to be a lot of good matchups coming up this weekend, tonight and this weekend too.
Yep.
So, state hockey's going on. We saw, as you and Justice have always talked about, New Richmond, and they went up against Menominee yesterday.
Yeah, it was they had a Big Rivers matchup at state with New Richmond picking up the 10-0 win. A game that was scoreless until about the final 10 seconds of the first period. New Richmond got one, late, and it seemed like that really kind of vaulted them. A lot of times when you're in hockey, when you kind of break the seal, so to speak, and you get that one, it kind of snowballs from there. And Menominee's goalie Jack Drout's a really good goaltender. I mean, he made a bunch of really good saves in that sectional championship win over Ram. But New Richmond, I mean, they said they won the Big Rivers, and generally that is a spot reserved for the likes of Hudson and Eau Claire Memorial. And New Richmond did it in impressive fashion. So you had to figure that going down to state that they were going to be a favorite, and they played like it yesterday.
Yeah. To kind of recap from last week, because I know we got team state wrestling this weekend. Surveyor saying shout out to Baldwin Woodville for that. But I know we had some individual state wrestling last week too, and one that you've watched for the last 4 years who's been pretty dominant, Mr. Sonnentag from
Mr.
Cadott.
Sonnentag, becoming the 23rd person in state history to win 4 state titles. Those last 2 matches, though, he had to earn it. A couple of 1-point decision wins. And he's going to wrestle at Wyoming, which wrestles in the Big 12.
Oh, okay.
So, but ends up, I believe, with a 153-2 career record, and was unbeaten his last 2 years of high school.
Man,
I mean, just a machine. Like at this point,
what else can you say about
him? And that's kind of the conversation I had with the coach afterwards. I'm like, well, what do you say at this point about someone that's just done this? Like, well, he's just Coach Josh Paith brought up the point. He's like, I don't know if people always understand the amount of time that kids at this level, a Braden Sonnentag or someone else that's had that much success put in to get to that point. It's not just showing up at practice and like, okay, well, we're, after school, we're practicing for 2 hours or whatever. You're working beforehand. You're working on the weekends. Like he says, he didn't take a day off.
Right.
Like,
well, I know he worked with our good friend, Lacrosse.
Yes, he
Lacrosse
is.
trained.
Yes, for sure. So, that's the level. And this is a kid that, as a young kid, had the goal. Like, I wanted to win state, and I don't want to just win state one. I want to win state a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And you put in that work to get there, and hard work pays off.
Right.
In many, many cases. And now he's one of the. It says something that within that program and within that family, he's the most accomplished kid. Because it's not easy to kind of get your head above the clouds against in the Cadott program because of how much success they have, or in the Sonnentag family, which has multiple state qualifiers, state champions. Like it's tough. There's a lot there.
Right. Isn't it interesting? I mean, you've covered it for a long time too, but there's always those programs, we call them programs, but like it seems like a lot of times there's maybe smaller schools too that they're always good at that sport.
There's just that thing that they're good at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing I've noticed about Cadott wrestling, and it stuck with me last year, because I remember I was covering a duel. They were wrestling Bloomer Colfax, and it was their youth night. And you invite the younger kids that are in your youth program in, and you acknowledge them during a break in the action or whatever. And sometimes you don't always have the best participation for something like that, just because maybe the kids can't go to it. But there were like 90 or 100 kids that were there for that. Like it's like wrestling is what Cadott does.
Right.
Like there's just certain programs like that where you think of a certain school and you think of this sport.
Yep.
And that's the way it is with Cadott. Like, they're really proud, for them, they say it's a tradition, and it is, and they should be, but you see that, and you just can't help but be impressed. And there's just so much work that's put in by, a lot of times when you see stuff like this, it's the high school coach and stuff like that, but it's also the youth coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people that are putting in those times to kind of lay the foundation for a kid like Brand Sontag. So when he gets to high school, he already knows all the basics of the sport.
Right.
And you can work on the advanced stuff. I always think about it for like, I'll use the example for basketball. Like, when you have youth programs, by the time you're getting to high school, you're not learning how to dribble a basketball. You're not learning about ball handling.
Right.
You're learning more advanced stuff.
Yep.
And that's what, you look at, I can almost guarantee you look at any of those, programs as the program, the way we describe them in this area, and you're going to see a great youth program underneath it.
Mm-hmm. Well said. I completely agree, Brandon. Great stuff there. We got lots of Blue Gold stuff coming up here too tonight. Blue Gold women's basketball begin their NCAA tournament run. So that game you will be able to hear on the radio dials on 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online too. So if you want to stream it, you can at sportstalk1051.com. They're going to be taking on Whitman. Tip time looks like to be at 5:30. Then plus we've got Blue Gold women's hockey for the WIAC championship Saturday at River Falls. Blue Gold men's hockey WIAC championship Saturday, Stevens Point.
I was going to say also we got state gymnastics this weekend.
Oh, good call.
Which is on Wisconsin Rapids. The team competition today.
It's a great gym, by the way.
I don't think I've ever. Well, that's probably why they host it. I don't think I've ever been. When I've been to Rapids, I've gone to the ice rink.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, the gym's got a nice what would you call
catwalk?
it? Kind of
like Osseo a little bit.
Yeah,
because Osceo's got the track going around up top, which is really cool.
Yeah, this is more of the. I think it's been a while, but yeah, you can view everything from up top and that. So yeah.
Well, they're usually hosting stuff, but Chai McDonald, in team competition today, they won the sectional championship last weekend. Tomorrow they have a number of competitors in individual action. Bloomer Colfax as well, the first year for that co-op, and they've got a couple competitors that'll be in individual action tomorrow. So some good gymnastics around this area this year, and they're going to be their season comes to a head here coming up today and tomorrow.
Did we have swimming?
Swimming I think it was last weekend.
Yeah, I think it was last weekend too. Yeah, because we had some Bloomer kiddos going over there, I think.
Oh, that was separate. That was the youth. That was youth swimming.
Youth swimming. All right, sorry, Bloomer Tony.
Yep.
Well, still shout out to all of them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we're getting. This is the time of year where because last week was such a busy week, but now you've all starting this week, it's kind of like, okay, well, things are falling off, and it's like, well, what's your schedule look like? I'm like, well, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, because boys is just starting now for postseason. So
yeah, and I even had someone last night ask me if I'm ready for track to start on Monday.
Holy crap!
Yeah. So yeah, track and field starts on Monday.
Man.
Now some of these schools may still be they may be a little shorthanded early on because they may still have some kids in some other sports that are competing. But yeah, because you have you do have
the
a bit of
an meets.
Yeah, you have a bit of an indoor meet. Eau Claire and Stout usually are hosting some.
Wow.
Yeah, we're.
All right, that's crazy. So, all right, well, thanks, Brandon, for breaking down all that local and regional stuff for us. We're going to take a quick break. And then I want to talk some Brewers since, well, I've got my Brewers hat on. Brandon's decked out in Brewers swag too. We're about close to a weekend of spring training, but got a few things we got to hit up on with this team so far that we've seen. Plus, what does Brandon think of the new rule changes so far? We'll hit that up. All right, let's just jump into it. I couldn't find what I was looking for here a little bit, so we got about 11 minutes to the top of the hour here. Spring training first game was last Saturday, so we're about a week into it. We saw Corbin Burns for the first time yesterday. Yelly hit a leadoff home run and all that good stuff. So I want to talk about some of the because I mean we've got I know Adam McCulvey's been doing some roster projections and predictions, and well, it's kind of been altered now with Tyrone Taylor probably missing the first month and such. But before we get to that, Brandon, I know we talked about it on Monday, but since you are our Brewers and baseball dude, your first impressions of the rule changes so far, most notably length of games and maybe that pitch clock, because we've already seen some instances. I bring up the Atlanta game, guy got rung up, batter. I think I'm one of them. But when you think of the pitch clock, you're thinking more about, okay, how does it affect the pitchers and that? But we saw a scenario now too where it was the batter that ended the game, essentially. So
Yeah, I think more good than bad. And it was one of those things where there was a lot of them I wasn't sure about just because I wasn't familiar with. And I'll admit my opinion kind of changed a little bit during the winter when I had a conversation with Taryn Vavra about it.
Yeah.
Because obviously he experienced it going through the minors and he was steadfast. He's like, no, this is good. This is going to be good for baseball. So I'm like, okay, well, obviously I trust this guy's judgment when it comes to it. Now,
Right.
the time, I'm certainly the speeding up of the game. I think that's a big thing everyone's going to notice right off the bat. And you mentioned the game times and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm still a little leery on just the whole banning of the shifting, just because I think there's so many rules that are given to help offense that sometimes I think you need to give some to help defense and pitching. But that's kind of one of those. It is what it is. At this point, it's a little weird now to see like rockets up the middle that are actually base hits, I guess. So that's going to take some getting used to. But no, I would say more good than good than bad so far. And I think the good thing about having spring training, like this, is it's going to give these players a chance to get used to it.
Right.
It's a little bit different, like when there's rule changes in football, and that you've got three training camp. You got 3 games in preseason, and a lot of times important players aren't playing.
Yeah.
So here you're going to get. I think you're getting a lot of the ironing out of it right now, which is good.
Right. So I know there was one game. I think it might have been the Brewers and the Cubs one. It was like 2 hours and 11 minutes, and that was a 9-inning game.
Yeah, and even but yesterday's game was still around 3-ish hours.
Yeah,
and that was a higher scoring game, so it's not a guarantee like every game is going to. But yeah, if you're not going to have, I don't think you're going to have very many like 2-1 games that go 3 hours anymore.
Right. And I guess my thing too is like, so I was using this comparison the other day, and I don't know if you're the same, but like, and I'm thinking of it mostly when I go to a game. If I'm at a football game, I've got it in my mind like, okay, I'm not grabbing something, I'm not going to the bathroom, I'm not getting a beer unless it's at the end of the quarter, halftime, or maybe if my team's on defense, because I don't want to miss an offensive series. Basketball, it's mostly like end of quarter because it's just constant action, right? Baseball, I was like, I can get up whenever, just go grab something. I almost feel like that's going to change now because everything is just going to be happening quicker, with the pitch clock on there. It's like, do you think it's more people are going to be more focused, more intense on the game because it's happening quicker?
Could be, and that's something I've always liked about baseball is it was a little bit less.
It was more relaxed.
It was more relaxed. Yeah, you're right for those reasons. But no, I think that's a good point. That's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of this just for everyone's going to be new.
Yeah, because I ain't talking to anybody at a football because I'm so zoned in basketball. Baseball is like you could turn around and talk to the next guy. Yeah. Now I feel like it's like, okay, I got to pay attention all the time now, kind of like I do in football and basketball sort of thing. That's why I kind of want to. I guess I have to experience it first to see if it's like that.
Yeah.
And we can see it with the Express, obviously, because they're going to have the pitch clock in there. But, I was thinking about that. I'm like, I wonder if that's going to change my viewing habit of baseball.
Possible.
I mean, and I get it too. Like, I don't know if you're the same way. I always thought like the games went fairly quick or smooth the first few innings, but then it was all the pitching changes. And that's what really delayed it because there's a lot of times I'm like, oh, wow, it's already the 4th inning or it's already the 5th inning. And then it's like, okay, why is it taking forever for the next couple? It's got to be pitching changes and all that sort of stuff. I have, and then, all that sort of, there's a bunch of factors I think into it. But I feel like too, for a lot of these quicker games in spring training, I don't know, there's a part of me that feels like when it gets to the regular season, they're going to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I just, there's something about me that I feel like, okay, I can't see a Sunday night baseball game going 2 hours and 11 minutes. There's just something that like, okay, are they going to add in an extra commercial break? Or
Well, I
there's,
guess the first test will be the first of the 7 Yankees-Red Sox games on Sunday nights to see how far they go, because those are generally the games that seem like they went the longest for one
Right.
reason or another.
Yeah, good point. So Tyrone Taylor, that injury where he's going to miss, about a month and such. Who does that open up the door for to be that opening day starter in right field? Do you think?
I think it gives a good pathway to Tyler Naquin,
Mhm.
guy who we were just talking about last week that had just signed.
Mhm.
Someone that's can play an effective right field and hit right-handed pitching pretty well. I think that opens up a spot there, but
Does it open a door for one of those youngsters?
maybe, but also maybe also a guy like a Blake Perkins, who they signed in the offseason he's on the major league roster, like a switch hitter that they kind of liked some of the changes he made in AAA last year. But the thing that I think works in Blake Perkins' favor is his switch hitter. So the Brewers are really left-handed hitting heavy in the outfield. When you look at guys hitting from the left side, Yelich, Mitchell, Winker, Naquin, if you're getting a little bit further down, Sal Frelick, Joey Weimer is about the only other guy that's in that conversation that hits from the right side. I think the other thing to consider too is, Brian Anderson, not Brett Anderson, former Brewer. Brian Anderson can play outfield as well. Now they may want him to just focus on third base, and if he's already shown some good things at third base.
I saw a graph that with him and Willie Adames, they might have the strongest throwing left side.
Yeah, I think Statcast had Anderson as one of the hardest one of the biggest arms in baseball. Like he can. That's something people don't really talk about when it comes to him. But he can absolutely throw it. So certainly he could play right field. He has in the past, but they may want to keep him at third just because. I mean, that's right now. I think
kind of solidifies that infield.
And I think ideally that's kind of what they want, is they want to Reese at second and Anderson at third, which I think is probably the way to go. But I think it's just going to, for that first month or so, it's just going to open up opportunity. And yeah, maybe it's a pathway to one of those young guys, but also maybe it's just like we've seen in the past, is a chance for a Tyler Naquin to start and see what he does, and maybe a Blake Perkins to get a chance at the big league level for that first month and just kind of see if they sink or swim.
Does the injury to Tyrone Taylor almost kind of inadvertently open up a spot for Keston?
It might, because he's going to get a decent look in the outfield. He's more of a left fielder, but maybe that might be a pathway for him, because right now, his pathway to this roster is kind of tough, because he's not going to usurp Rowdy Tellez at first. Now Luke Voigt might have a chance to make that team too, and he's only a first baseman. Keston can play second, but he hadn't really played much of that last year. They've been trying him more in the outfield, so maybe.
If it came down to Luke Voigt or Keston, who would you give the edge to?
There's still part of me that's just like, I want to see what Keston Hiura can do. Like, even though he's had opportunities, I'm not gonna say he hasn't, but I don't know, because I think there's a little more versatility with Keston, and they're actually kind of similar guys as far as their numbers and stuff like that. I think Keston's
do they both strike out a lot too?
So they're both power hitters. But I think it would be easier for the Brewers to keep Keston, because remember, he's out of options, versus Luke Voigt, who's on a minor league deal. And maybe that's something where I don't know if Voigt would be willing to start the year at AAA with,
because he has that decision, right? He can make that.
Yeah, I think so. So that's going to be one of those decisions that's you always see at the end of spring training, when inevitably there's always a few decent productive players out there that get cut loose.
Do you think that's one of those situations too? Do you think like Craig Counsell or Matt Arnold go to those players, be like, hey, we want you, but will you start off in like a Luke Voigt? Like,
yeah,
do you think
like,
they
hey,
have that? Would you be willing to do this?
Yeah,
sort of
like
thing?
you're our kind of first, you're our first move kind of a thing. Like,
right.
Yeah, because you got to communicate with people like that, because when you just hear, okay, well, we want you to go AAA, they don't know if that's like all year or if that's maybe for a week or two or what. But that's that's probably one of the more pressing questions as far as that the position player group's going to go to start the year.
Yeah, I was looking at Adam McCovey's projection, and he had both Keston and Voigt making it. But it's the Tyrone Taylor one. I kind of wondered if there's a trickle down effect for not only just the outfield but other positions, because he put Keston as kind of a utility player on
and
there.
he can, like, he's not necessarily great anywhere defensively, but he can play those different spots, and there is value in that.
Right. Because I'm sure you saw the 40 man that he
I
projected.
think I did.
Contreras and Victor Caratini at catcher, no question.
No, that's
Rowdy Tellez and Luke Voigt at first. Luis Urias, Willie Adames, Brian Anderson, Christian Yelich, Garrett Mitchell, Naquin.
Naquin.
Then he's got Keston and Mike Brasso.
Yeah, and I think Mike Brasso is kind of the interesting person in this because he provides something that the Brewers really need, and that is someone that hits lefties well. And his defense can be a bit of an adventure, that's for sure. But he can hit the ball from against left-handed pitching, and that's something a lot of the Brewers have got some guys with some reverse splits. So he's a guy that I think is pretty solidly on this team because he can play first, second, or third. Maybe he's the guy that's playing first base. I think
we saw him back for a while, right?
And I that Urias and Anderson at second and third are both playing against lefties, so that's probably maybe his best pathway. And I think it's a good route for him too, just because he's not the best defender in the world. Having him at first base.
Right. So interesting decisions, and we didn't even get to the pitching.
Yeah.
Bullpen's still kind of up in the air, you think, a little bit?
I think so. I think you've got there's a few guys that are probably obviously the people we know that are pretty solidified, but for them it's just a lot of high upside arms that maybe aren't the most proven at the big league level. It's just a matter of hey, who shines in spring training.
Yeah, interesting. So we can say though we're less than 4 weeks away from opening day.
Yes, we are.
We are.
But by the end of this month, we will have regular season baseball.
Only one game at the end of this month, but it's one game. So, because it's that weird, hey, we're going to have opening day, then an off day. And then.
Although at least it makes a little bit more sense when they're playing it in Chicago.
Right.
I always thought it was dumb that when they did it when they were playing Milwaukee because the game's not getting postponed.
Right. Yeah.
In Chicago, I understand building in that early weather day just in case.
Yeah. And then I get it because then you go weekend series, you can start a new series on Monday, but still it's like, got 162 games and long stretch. All right, we got a busy 8 o'clock hour. We got our Carpet City Flooring Center local sports spotlight. We got a cream of the crop. We're gonna do a bench start cut NFL Combine edition coming up too.
texted me about it this week.
Third and final hour kicking off on this TGIF. Hopefully you're all off to a fantastic start on this Friday morning before the weekend is upon us. We got a busy 8 o'clock hour coming up here. Do you want to do the Carpet City spotlight quick?
Let's do it. And this week there were so many good options. I've been thinking about this all week. Like there's so many good options when you get to this time of year. But to allude to someone we talked about earlier, I couldn't not pick Braden Sontag.
Yeah.
A 4-time state wrestling champion. I mentioned 153-2 in his career. Just hasn't lost a match, I don't believe, on the prep level since his sophomore year.
Man.
Like, that's just a level of dominance you don't see.
Do you know off the top of your head, has there a high school wrestler ever gone undefeated?
I'm sure there is, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. I might have to text.
Yeah, the WA keeps a lot of good records for stuff, but I don't know if they have that for that.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
That's pretty darn close. That's why I was asking.
And 2.
Yeah.
Like, and that was earlier on, and I have no doubt that those 2 losses were to very, very good competition because he's been good since he walked through the door of high school.
Right.
But I mean, thinking about there are so many good ones. You go back to last weekend, Menominee boys hockey team making the state for the first time since 1991. Like, we talked about the Colfax girls picking up, beating Cadott and then coming back last night beating Phillips in overtime. Great year for Elk Bound girl. Like, there's just so
blue gold girls basketball.
Women's getting this. To ending up
NCAA.
Yes, there's just so many good ones. Like this is one of those weeks where it's like, man, you couldn't go wrong. But it just, the more I thought about it, like, you can't help but go that route.
Cap that career that way. So you get a state championship, but this is better.
And a former winner of the award, Kellen Ore from Menominee, winning state as well. He was second last year, lost in a sudden victory, in overtime. And then
was he the one that was a little dinged up in this one, or was he hurt? I thought I saw somewhere there was a wrestler that was like a little dinged up, but he grinded it out.
I don't remember offhand, but he was earlier this year when he had 100 wins for his career. So, but he was a former winner that certainly worthy of some recognition. That went down the state a year after kind of being dealing with some heartbreak there and turned the table.
That's awesome too. So a lot of good ones. Everybody,
such a good
deserves one.
Yeah.
You ready to do a little bench start cut here?
Sure.
All right. So this is going to be a combine edition. A little fancy intro.
How come we don't do the combine run anymore?
Do you want to? So I did the Wonderlick, and I know they don't do that anymore. They got rid of it in 2022, but I will always think of the Wonderlick when it comes to the combine.
Yeah.
So I did it live while I was recording a podcast yesterday.
Nice.
It's 12 minutes, 50 questions. Do you know what I got? Did you listen to the
podcast? I did not yet.
All right. Should I tell you?
Yeah.
37.
That's pretty good.
I am a horrible test taker, but that was higher than Aaron Rodgers. That was higher than Tom Brady. 37, baby.
I mean, it's not Ryan Fitzpatrick, but it's still pretty good.
It's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, but I was like, okay, I'll take that. I'll run with it.
Yeah.
I will take.
You're like, I'll never have to take it again because now for the rest of my life, when people ask, I'm like, oh, I got 37.
I got 37. So, but if you want to listen to the podcast, like I literally said, okay, pushed it and I pressed record and I went through all 50. I didn't even finish it. Oh. I missed 2 questions at the end.
Well, it's also got to be tougher when you're explaining every question out loud. That's just wasted time versus if you're reading in your head. You always read quicker in your head.
So I got the link on there too if anybody wants to try it themselves.
I might have to do that.
Yeah, just to kind of I hate the math questions like traveling 50 miles per hour and all. It's like, okay. And then there's ones like if you fold this corner and you fold that corner, what corners will touch? And you're trying to imagine a cube in your head and like. Yeah, so you run out of time. I was like, I hate time stuff. I hate time questions, but no, I won't run the 40 anymore. I'm too old for that. I'm too old for that. But we do bring up the 40 in our bench start cut. So bench start cut, I think these are 3 of the most useless things at the combine. I was going to put Wonderlick on there, but again, they got rid of it starting last year, reportedly. 40-yard dash, hand size. We can measure our hands if you want to, or the broad jump. Bench start cut.
Now, as far as they're worthless.
So which one would you still keep? Which one would you be like, yeah, sort of, and then one you just absolutely get rid of? So like put them in, like obviously start would be like, no, I think we got to keep that one. And
I will keep the hand size.
Okay.
I will let hang around the broad jump, and I'll get rid of the 40.
Yeah.
And something that that's been talked a lot about when it comes to kind of the Vikings and Kwesi Mensa. Like for him, I guess the thing he really looks into is the 10-yard.
Yeah.
Because realistically, it's more important how quick are you in a 10-yard area, which the game is played literally every down, versus how often it's great that the D lineman from Pittsburgh ran the fastest D lineman 40-yard time since the mid 2000s, but how often is a defensive lineman running 40 yards on the field?
Right. Exactly. And they're in like underwear.
The underwear Olympics.
The underwear, I mean, it's different with pads and a helmet and all that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. Like I look at the 40, it's like great speed. I know a lot of teams use that 7-cone or that 3-cone.
Yeah, 3-cone. Yeah, just to test your kind of your flexibility, your acceleration, just how quickly you can change directions, which is very important.
The shuttle, that was another. We were talking about presidential fitness. The shuttle run, I hated too. I always had the worst shoes to try to stop on a gym floor. I didn't have any grip on them. So you're just like trying to stop and you're like sliding in that. Hated that. Maybe if I had better shoes.
Like risky business.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my goodness. Nothing will ever top sit and reach as the absolute worst, but especially when somebody's holding your knees down, you can't even cheat just a little bit.
Yeah.
I hate that thing. I don't even want to know what mine would be right now.
Oh, gosh.
I will start the... See... I get what you're saying about the hand size, but I almost like so the big one last year was Kenny Pickett, right?
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett's got small hands. But these guys wear gloves now.
Yeah.
They wear these gloves, and Kenny Pickett's playing in Pittsburgh. So I get what I'm assuming. Are you saying hand size mostly for the quarterbacks?
Yeah.
This sort of thing.
Maybe it's just because I was a Dante Culpepper fan. That was always something people brought up with him, that he had small hands. But yeah,
I keep thinking of that dinosaur. I got a big head and little arms.
The T-Rex arms.
The T-Rex arms there. And then I brought in broad jump too, because how many guys are actually like long jumping?
And I to me, that one is not so much because of the actual act itself, but maybe what the explosion act says.
Yeah.
The explosion, the flexibility.
Yep.
What it maybe says if you're good at it versus the fact that, well, he can broad jump, 100 feet.
That's where I think I'm going to start the broad jump. I'm going to bench the hand size, and I'm going to cut the 40.
Okay.
I'm going to go that route. So a little bit. We both cut the 40, which is what's the most popular one.
It's arguably,
the 40.
It's everyone. It's the one Rich Eisen does, for crying out loud.
Right. I think it's also the one that any Joe can try it.
Yeah.
We tried it a few years ago, and everybody can kind of do their own version of it, sort of thing. But in terms of like, can it tell you how good a football player is? I mean, yeah, sometimes you have those guys who, Calvin Johnson, right, had a great 40 for his size. Calvin Johnson's a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Yes.
But was it John Ross a few years ago?
Oh my gosh. It's every year there's always a few people that they spring up because of it.
Right.
Troy Williamson for the Vikings back when, in 05 was one of those guys.
Right. Like John Ross vaulted into a top 10 pick. Where's he at now? I don't know.
We don't know.
But Chris Johnson, awesome and a good career. Probably not a Hall of Fame career, but
good.
2,000-yard rusher, I think, one season. So
CJ2K.
That's right, CJ2K. So no, I mean, some it does, but it's not. It gets so overblown.
It does.
It gets so overblown. Like, I don't care how fast my offensive lineman can run a 40.
Yeah.
Can he open up a running lane and can he protect my quarterback? That's all I care about. I want the short shuffle.
Yeah, can you get out on the edge for like a screen or like a
straight line speed? Yeah. I don't give a crap about my offensive line unless you're all about, hey, we want them downfield and blocking the old Lombardi sweep and that sort of thing. But no, all right, so we're in agreement, pretty much there. But how often do you pay attention to the combine these days?
Not too much. I mean, this year maybe. I mean, obviously because I've been busy with work, but also because full disclosure, the Vikings don't have a ton of draft capital. So, hey, if the Vikings had like a top 3 pick or something, I'd probably be paying attention a little bit more, or they were just loaded with draft picks, because I knew like, hey, these are people I'm going to be keeping an eye on. But
if it was still Spielman, you knew then you'd probably have more picks, because
they have like a ton of 7th round picks.
Yeah.
He would find a way to turn that number 23 overall pick into like 2/3 of 3/5 and 7 7ths.
Yep, exactly. Which is weird because you guys traded down quite a bit last year.
Yeah, and like. We were kind of talking a little bit, I think it was off air, just about like, old drafts and like stuff like that. And like, I was thinking about like, I've never really had too much as far as like, regretting like the Vikings, like, well, they picked player A instead of player B. But, really last year was the first one I can remember offhand where I was just not happy when they traded out 12, which, you're looking at what, Kyle Hamilton was there and he had a really good year. We'll see about Jameson Williams. And, unfortunately, Lewis Cine had some injuries. But yeah, that was kind of the first time for a draft. I was kind of like, I don't really like that. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, because both trades were NFC North rivals too.
Yeah, Detroit and then later Green Bay to let them get Christian Watson. So we'll see.
See how that all pans out over there. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to avoid on Twitter because everybody's putting it up there.
Yep, and that's usually that's a lot of how I've been seeing things. It's just
and obviously the one the Nolan Smith from Georgia was lighting it up of sub 440. For an edge rusher. Yeah, it's really freaking fast and such. But you're like, okay, it's fun to talk about those big defensive linemen. Like I was talking about the Northwestern kid, the big defensive lineman who 282 pounds ran like a 4.5 40 yesterday. And I'm like, okay, that's an athletic freak. That's an athletic freak. But does it mean he's going to be a great defensive lineman? We don't know.
Right.
We don't know yet. But does that mean he's an athletic freak? Heck yeah. Because that's a 282-pound man coming at you at a pretty darn fast rate. That's like a freight train. Yeah, that's a freight train right there. So, but I don't watch it. I'll kind of pay attention to it on the socials and such. And I think now it's gotten to a point where you've got so many of these guys just electing to do their pro day works. Especially the quarterbacks, right? You're seeing mostly the quarterbacks go do pro day. They're going to throw at their pro day. They'll show up at the combine. They'll do interviews. They'll do the measures. And I get it. They want to throw to their guys.
Yeah, and
right?
it's an environment that they're
a controlled environment.
Yeah, they're trying to put themselves in the best possible position.
Right. So some quarterbacks still like to throw, but maybe the ones that the most approve.
Yeah, like an Anthony Richardson.
Right. Yeah.
A guy that could. Absolutely. I mean, he's going to be the boomer bust of this year.
I already saw a mock draft to have him going to the Raiders in the top 10.
Yeah. I mean, he's someone that can go, he can go anywhere. He's the physical tools guy. I mean, you look at, he played at Florida, so he played tough competition in the SEC, but, he had some clunkers of games, but,
But everybody remembers him from that one play.
Yeah. Well, then also what was it like around him?
Right.
So and I think people are going to be, now we're in that spot where I think Anthony Richardson will get drafted a lot higher now than he would have 7 years ago, because with the kind of the toolsed up players that have been able to kind of figure it out as they've gone along, that wasn't the case. I mean, honestly, 10, 15 years ago, Tanner McKee would be talked about a lot as far as like a top half first round quarterback because of what he does well.
The Stanford kid,
yeah, because he's big and strong and he's accurate.
Yeah.
But he's not, super mobile, and it's just not it's not a lot of the skill set that people are looking for now compared to, mid to late 2000s.
Yeah, because I just saw somebody post. I think it was a 5th rated quarterback in this draft. Somebody posted on there, but
there's skills there, but it's not the skills that are necessarily as valued as they were 15 years ago.
And I think you got to factor in too, like his coach. A lot of NFL teams were interested in David Shaw at one point. I mean, and you do look at Andrew Luck. They got a little bit of
and that one you can definitely make the case he didn't have a ton of talent around him.
Right. That would be an interesting option for like a backup quarterback. I'm thinking of a team like Green Bay if they don't have Aaron.
Yeah.
Like who would be your next backup? Maybe somebody like that.
Well, that's
the old
thing.
Brian Brown draft after they selected Aaron.
Don't let Merrill Hodge get a hold of that. But but no, that was something too that thinking about like the Vikings, because early this week Tom Pelissero had reported that it doesn't look like there's going to be another kind of 1 year extension for Kirk Cousins. It's either going to be he's going to play out his last year of his contract, or they're going to extend him for more. And if they opt not to, then they could be in the market for a quarterback. And
they got to figure out the Justin Jefferson deal.
They do too. Yeah, that's the thing.
For a team that's already tightened the salary cap.
And Kwesi Rodolfo-Mensah already said, he goes, I don't want to be the GM of the Vikings without Justin Jefferson on the team. Like that's he's kind of called the negotiations for that. He kind of used a phrase I liked. He called them champagne problems, which means they're problems, but they're good problems to have because that means you're trying to keep around the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday. I think of the GMs for this offseason, who are like the GMs that just really can't afford to screw up this offseason, whether it's the draft or maybe a little bit in the offseason. Like there's a few of them on the top of my head. Like I know I mentioned it. I think this is a GM's dream, but also you can't screw this up. Chicago Bears, with all that
Yeah.
cap space, you have the number 1 pick that you can sell. You have the ability, but you can't screw it up.
And that's it. Yeah, you're in a good spot, but you can't mess it
Yeah,
up.
Ryan
because
Poles.
this is like this is an opportunity that doesn't come around for teams very much to have that much room to have a number 1 pick where you don't necessarily have to take it. You can sell it to the highest bidder.
You got your quarterback, we think.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, it's a very unique spot for them, but you're right. You have to take advantage of it.
I think the other ones I put on there too, and a lot of it is just because they got to make the right pick. Joe Douglas from the Jets. I think everybody's thinks they're just one quarterback away from being a playoff team, but they got to get it right. You know, is it trading high picks for Aaron Rodgers? Is it signing Derek Carr? You know,
is it some other quarterback move that we don't see
Jimmy
coming?
G, you know, something like that, but you got to get that right. Otherwise, I think they don't. That regime's out.
Yeah.
At this point. What was the other one I think I had on there too? I mean, I would put the Raiders and Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler.
Yeah.
You know, they invested a lot in Devontae Adams last year. Now they don't even have a quarterback, and they're already reportedly saying we're not going to go after Aaron. Well, we got too many holes. What do you mean you got too many holes? You spent a lot last year. Now you're saying you got two. So I would say you got to figure out your quarterback position.
Maybe you can go get Derek Carr.
Isn't that just weird? How
I heard he went to college with Devontae Adams.
Right? Weird. I mean, they got Darren Waller and they got Hunter Renfrow. I mean, they got Jacobs too. I mean, they got a decent offense, but then they brought in Chandler Jones from Max Crosby. But hey, maybe it's something that not every Patriot thing works.
Maybe there's a maybe there's a reason the Patriots relatively stay the Patriots. Well, maybe it's more Bill Belichick than his assistants.
Yeah,
maybe.
There was another one I put on my list too, and I have it actually written down because I was going to do a podcast on it, but I decided to do the Wonderlic instead on there.
Better.
But there was another one on there too. I can't. I'll think about it probably later.
You'll think about it at some point, like during a commercial or something.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Oh, Detroit, Brad Holmes.
Yeah.
I mean, the expectations now are like. Whew. So how do you take that? Do you take a quarterback or do you try to get somebody that maybe can help you now?
Yeah, like
instead of a quarterback
someone else for that defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the other one on there too. It's like, okay, like I don't think their job's in trouble, but this is where like you got an anxious fan base now.
Yeah, and you have
tasted that close,
and you have an opportunity in the North because obviously the Vikings are going to have some turnover on the roster just to get cap compliant. Obviously, we don't know what's up with the Packers,
right?
And the Bears, even with could be improved, but still not as good as the Lions. So yeah, this is a golden opportunity for Detroit.
You think it's fair to say that the NFC North and the NFC East are the two best divisions in the NFC?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the South, well, whatever, and then the West. I mean, we've seen, we've seen obviously kind of the wheels come off for the Rams and the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. We don't know about the quarterback.
Right?
Are they going to bring back Geno Smith? The
Rams seem to be selling because Jalen Ramsey might be traded. Bobby Wagner was released.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah, NFC South. Who is the top quarterback in there right now?
Ooh.
Jameis Winston.
Ooh.
Taysom Hill. Kyle Trask. PJ Walker.
If Sean Payton was still in New Orleans, you think it would be Taysom Hill?
I'm surprised he hasn't worked out a trade yet for Taysom Hill. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, to be honest with you. I would not.
What would Russell Wilson think of that, though?
Well, he'll probably take him in his own office,
yeah,
and Oh boy.
I'm not a Sean Payton fan, but I appreciate the fact that there's a lot of those things. He's like, no, we're not doing that.
He did make. I don't know if you saw the comment the other day that, and I know he's now got the job. He's got to stand up for his quarterback and that, but he did say, I think at the combine, well, if they would have won, Russell Wilson's office wouldn't be an issue. But here's my counter to that: if they would have won, you wouldn't have that job right
exactly.
now.
Exactly. Yeah. That would still be Nathaniel Hackett's job.
Right. So it's like, okay, but then you wouldn't be there. So
right
there you go. All right. Let's take a quick break and we'll get back to some more fun stuff. Let's do do I want to do the cream of the crop now? No. We're going to do cream of the crop at about 8:45. I want to know what's got you fired up for the weekend, though. So we'll hit that up. Rest of you can play along. What's got you fired up for the weekend? Hit us up with quick text, tweet, or Facebook message. If you're looking to fire up the grill this weekend, make sure you head to Hy-Vee and pick up yourself some Dan Good Burgers there over in the meat department. Maybe take some Man Cave Lights from the bar to go, put it in the growlers and such, and get the grill going for this weekend. Got some, take advantage of a little bit. Well, I thought I saw somewhere on the good old Facebook that temperatures might be coming down below average coming up here. So take advantage of what sounds to be a fairly decent weather out there, but get all the supplies by visiting our good friends at Hy-Vee. All right, bottom of the hour here, Brandon. I thought I had a fired up hotkey. I do. Why is it on a Thursday? Well, we'll do that. That was really bad because that intersected over there. We need a producer to handle all these buttons.
You're fine
over here. So, Brandon, what's got you fired up for the weekend, man?
Well, for me,
I think I know yours.
Well, yeah, it's just going to be a busy weekend of obviously local stuff going on.
Right.
We kind of touched on it in the last hour, but yeah, just a lot of good stuff going on. If you want to get out and see something, obviously you got a lot of options around here.
Yeah, you can potentially see some teams punch their ticket to state.
Mm-hmm.
Some get a little bit closer. Some already at state.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And obviously, if you're a Blue Golds fan with girls hoops, you're going to be following that, or the hockey teams this weekend.
Yeah, battling for some WIAC titles.
Mm-hmm. So, what's got me fired up? We're in March, and for me, that's almost kind of like, okay, we flipped the calendar from January to February. I can start to think about spring, and I can start to think about golf.
That's dangerous.
I know, because I'm not going to say it.
No, say it.
Well, we're not going to say it. I don't want to get yelled at by surveyor.
Good.
But I know it's dangerous, but that's when it flips to March. And I think it's because, Brandon, I mean, you kind of mentioned it too, but I remember, this was like, hey, a couple weeks, spring sports practice start. You mentioned track, but I remember March was always like, all right, middle or towards the end, where it's like, we got practice starting. So it's like, okay, spring's going to be here. It's going to be summer, and then end of school. And, oh, wait, can't end school for me right now. But I'm so anxious I got golf goals this year, Brandon. I've got some major golf goals.
I heard the podcast about the play, the top 10 courses you want to go, and
I'm going to try to consistently break 80 this year too.
You have higher goals than I do.
I'm going to try to do it. I got to get a putting green in the man cave though. I got to get that in there.
Also, I appreciate, but had a good chuckle at you shared the photo of you from, was it high school?
Yeah.
Boy, you can't tell you're a Tiger Woods fan, huh? And look, the Medford polo was going to be red anyway.
Well, okay, so I'll tell you the story on that photo.
Okay.
That was actually after high school.
But
it was the summer before college starts. So I just graduated. That was actually a Nike polo too, a Nike red polo, but it was the Medford hat. But the story of that was, I think that was it was in August because it was right before I had to leave for college. But it was an outing. It was my first ever golf outing that I ever played in. Because I was always in high school, and I'm like, I never played in an outing, but me and some friends, because it was a memorial one for some of my friends' buddy who passed away in a car accident that year. So it was Friday night. We're like, hey, we're gonna all stay at my buddy Sean's house, tip back or whatever.
Have a cold beverage or two.
Yeah. I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night, and we have this outing, and I'm like, I can't sleep. I can't get, ended up like, I don't even know. I think I just sat on the couch watching TV all night. And we all go out for breakfast. I'm on no sleep, nothing. And I'm like, don't we have to go there? Like, I'm an early guy. I got to be somewhere early. I'm like, don't we got to be there? We pulled in as guys were going in the cars for the outing. So we were late, like really late. So we get in there, and this outing, it was their first year, so I'll give them credit. But it was teams of 4. But they put 2 teams to a hole. So you had 8 golfers per hole. And I'm like, that was the longest day on the course for me because you're waiting for everybody to take a hit. 8, and it's just like, oh my God, it lasted forever. But it was the best round of my life. It was the absolute best round of my life. I was on no sleep. That picture, I nailed the putt. One of the buddies I was golfing with, his mom took that picture. And I nailed that birdie.
And let me guess, you did the Tiger Woods fist.
I can't remember. I was thinking about that. I was wishing. I'm like, dang it. But that was like my best. The the driver, I was tattooing that thing, and it pissed me off because there was a drive I remember. It was if anybody's ever golfed Black River in Medford, that's where the course was. That's the outing. It was, I can't remember the whole number, but it was like a little dog leg left. Trees were to the left. I would always used to use it like a 6-iron lay up in the chip. But it's like, all right, three other guys.
Go for it.
I'm hitting the driver well. I tattooed that thing. I'm going to try to cut the corner. I hit a leaf, but it landed short of the green.
Nice.
Next hole, I tied for the longest drive. Oh my goodness, I was feeling it.
Like a lot of us, you peaked the summer after high school.
And that's why I put in that caption, Brandon, I wish I had my game from 18 years ago. That's why in our latest podcast, too, when we said top 5 coaches from movies, why did I put Bagger Vance on there, Brandon? Got to find that swing. I got to find that swing back because I don't have it. To quote Tin Cup, my swing feels like an unfolded lawn chair right now.
Mine always does.
God, I miss that thing. So, but that was my best round ever. And I just remember that night was a Packers preseason game, and I crashed. I won a golf bag for longest putt made, and I tied for something else too. But
and you couldn't stay awake to watch.
I should look up what that Packers.
I'm trying to think of who would
be
be
2004 Packers preseason.
You didn't want to see Aaron Cameron get some worthwhile reps.
Let's see. Should we see it?
Let's do it.
Let's see if that's postseason. I don't know postseason. That's not right. That's not a good website. Okay, preseason schedule. Here we go. I should be able to figure.
I would think
based off the dates, right? It would have been. Actually, it might have been this one because I think it was a pretty. No, that's a Monday game, so it wouldn't have been that. Okay, it would have been Saturday. Saints at Green Bay. I think it was that one. Green Bay won 19-14. It would have been August 21st, 2004. See how we figured that out?
Context
and
clues.
I know, Brandon, we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary. 20-year anniversary, you know it. May. Hole in one.
Yeah. Are we doing the show from T-High?
Should we?
I will. I will make that trip for you for that Friday. Some Friday in was it May?
Yeah, it'd be May 5th, Cinco de Mayo.
I would make that trip with you for that. to broadcast live from a golf course hole.
Right on the road, too. That's the thing.
Right,
it's right on the road.
Well, it'd been like when we, last year when we did the
Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest and ShipO, people are just waving and honking as we went by. I thought it was great.
The thing is, it's Medford. They're gonna be like, "What in the heck?"
They're gonna be looking at to try to, but they won't be able to listen.
They can stream it.
They can stream it.
We
You
don't have
usually
to have a big banner.
Yeah, stream live.
Yeah, big banner. Go to this website. That's why Medford WIGM. You should simulcast that show. Give us a chance. That's our tryout. That's our combine to be on the Medford station.
And you have to do the 118-yard dash.
That's not the short hole.
Oh, it's not the hole?
No, that's 4.
Yeah, you're right.
3 is the elevated 145, 150. And I'm going to have to try it.
Yeah, you are.
I'm going to have to try to repeat it. So it won't exactly be 20 because the next day would be the 20th anniversary. It's a Saturday, but
yeah,
it's close enough.
It's closer you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Should we do it? Should I reach out and see if we can do it?
I will say this. If you do it, I will go with you. I will wake up that early because that's going to be that's a really early morning.
Mm-hmm.
I will wake up as early as it takes to do that.
Yeah, I think we might have to.
Because I always appreciate our live on location shows.
I did promise.
There's just something different about them.
Yeah, I did promise too that the 3rd grade class that did the intro that I would visit them there too. So that might be the opportunity.
There you go.
Oh boy, that would be a lot of fun. That would be
something to consider.
We'll figure. We got about 2 months, almost exactly 2 months. So we'll figure that out. I don't know how that will work, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll have to have a big banner explaining what we are and what we're doing. We got a table and all this wires.
Otherwise, you're just gonna see 2 guys with headsets out
on hole 3 at TI.
And you're gonna have these older people that are out there golfing at 7 a.m.
Yep.
You're gonna be interviewing them while they're on the tee.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mildred, how are you? How's your round going?
It's not the main road, but it's like a side road where it's like everybody kind of,
Yeah, it's a
goes
pretty
down to
busy
lives
road.
and that. So,
Pretty
I
busy
mean,
road.
yeah, because you go the other way, it's like the tech is over there somewhere. So that would be funny. I haven't golfed Tee High or Black River in probably since 05, maybe.
I did last year. The last few years, some friends and I have we've done what we call the Medford Double.
Yeah.
Where we'll do 9
I was
and
kind
9.
of jealous of that.
Yeah, we've done it a couple times.
Mhm.
And because I mean, when I was younger, that was I frequented both those courses a fair amount,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we were able to do it. And we have in between, we have a nice lunch at the Medford Cafe.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Medford Cafe. They always had the best pan-baked fish when I was younger up there. Don't know if they still do or not, but that was what I'd always get.
Yep.
Pan-baked fish, fries, chocolate shake. Or chocolate malt, whatever. What's the difference between a shake and a malt?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Like, why
I
do we
always
gotta...
get the shake anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But
It's like you go some places it's malt, some it's a shake. It's like, what's the difference? I just want whatever chocolate.
Just give me
melted
some
ice
ice
cream.
Just give me some ice cream to drink.
We might have to get some funding to do this, but we'll figure it out. Because the only thing I'd have to figure out is like, can we get? We'd have to have a really good hotspot.
Yeah.
That's the only, unless the house that lives across from there has the internet and we can like knock and be like, do you have a long cord we can use? Or just go in your front yard.
Say that you'd run across the road or what?
Oh, we'll figure something out. If my coach is listening, sometimes he does. Come on, Coach V.
Make it happen.
Come on, Coach V. So I don't even know if the same owners own TI or not. Should I bring my little trophy I got for it? Put it on the table?
You should.
I still got the golf ball. The trophy's kind of broken, but I can glue it back. So, all right. Tell you what, let's take a quick break and let's do cream of the crop, and then we'll finish up things before we get to our what should be a rather self-deprecating podcast episode coming up after our top 5 most unpopular opinions.
I guess.
Is that how you would? One is really, I know people are going to be upset with me on.
I have one too that people in Wisconsin will not like, and it's not a sports one.
Just reminiscing a little bit about our good playing days. I'd forgot T-High might be the only course I've played that has those mirrors that you have to look up into and see if there's anybody in front because it's got a couple hills. They don't have one hole. They don't have two holes. They got three holes with that thing on there.
That was a draw to me for it. Like
Yeah.
when we started going back to these last few years, that's what I was super excited about.
Mm-hmm. It's the first hole, it's the seventh hole, and the eighth hole. The seventh hole is the par 3 that's just straight downhill.
Yeah, it's a blind. Like I had a friend that overshot and hit it down the road.
Yeah, there's the only thing is it's blind downhill, but there's also the road right behind it.
Yeah, if you go too far, there's a road and you can hit. Like I had a friend that hit it down the road because it just the angle he hit it, and it just started bouncing down the road.
Yep, and then there's City Hall right behind it.
Yep.
So, oh man, good memories. Good memories. All right, let's do a little cream of the crop here. Brandon, who's your cream of the crop?
Well, I think this is a very fitting week to do it. Someone who is, going to get his flowers, and rightfully so. I'm going Shaka Smart.
That was mine.
I went first. Shaka Smart, second year at Marquette. They clinched the outright Big Rivers.
Same thing.
They
Big
probably
East,
win
Big
the Big
Rivers.
Rivers. But the outright Big East Conference Championship.
Mhm.
They're top 10. They're really firing all cylinders. Last year made the tournament. Like that was one of those moves that when they hired him, like that's a good move. Like it just made sense.
Yep.
It's just sometimes things just fit with him being a Wisconsin guy and coming back to the state, and it just works. Like he's a I even at Texas, I was like I always thought he was a really good coach. It's just sometimes it doesn't work, and that was one round. It just didn't work to the level I think either side was hoping for. So just get a fresh start, and I'm
trying. I've got a new one, but I'm trying to because there was a stat to go along with it too that I wanted to bring up with it if I can find it in time. I should have just saved this. See, that's the thing. Like I got to get in the habit of more when I see this stuff, liking it. Just I don't have to like it. I think like is the wrong word for that stuff. I almost feel like they need to change it to save.
And that I've seen that brought up by people before because like there's things that they don't necessarily like, but they want to save for a reason.
Yeah.
And then obviously you see somebody like something, well, that means they like it. Well, that's not always the case.
Right, because you always get that, ooh, the player like this.
Yeah.
What does that mean, sort of thing, and all that. So, well, I was going to go with Mike Budenholzer because he was named Coach of the Year, but there was a stat. 1 month, excuse me. Yep.
Might be Coach of the Year. Who knows?
But there was a stat like he's done it multiple times, and not many coaches have gone on like 16-0. Like he's done it 3 times, I think now. Twice with the Bucks and one with Atlanta was the stat. And that's a short list of coaches that have actually done that.
Yeah.
Which we know Mike Budenholzer gets a lot of flack at times. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, he was close, at least from a fan's perspective, maybe being let go.
Yep.
And right now, and I don't think he will get a lot of the credit because it's Giannis, and they got a talented team on there. But I think he still has a hand in this. He does have a little bit of a hand in the
his ability to change up what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And adjust as needed has been big.
Right. So I think that was this. It was something with the 16-game winning streak. He's done it 3 times. But I was trying to find like what was the actual list. Maybe I can find it in time here in 10 minutes. I can't remember who tweeted that. So, but anyways, I'll go cream of the crop. I'll give some love to Mike Budenholzer.
Yeah.
Will they get their 17th win on Saturday?
Prime time.
Plain T. He says, I'm fired up with the burning anticipation of Aaron's decision this weekend. And also the Bucks getting number 17 against the Sixers. Plain T. You're not on the pool, man.
Pick a day.
You're gonna pick a day here. We got 4th and 5th. That's Saturday and Sunday. Nobody's got Saturday and Sunday on there. Nobody picked it. So if you've already picked a date and you want to back in, go ahead and pick one. Like nobody. G-Man already repicked for the 6th. You have Living Dream 7th and C-Bomb 8th. That's it up until the 13th. I think it's going to happen from now until the 10th. What say you?
Yeah, it's imminent. It's just a matter of what day.
Do you if you were a betting man?
I don't know. Like,
the thing is, for me, if the Raiders are truly not going to pursue Aaron, if they're truthful in that, and I know that's taking it with a grain of salt, you kind of
Yeah.
have to. Who else is left besides the Jets?
right, you don't really have much of a market.
And to me, that means the price has to go down, doesn't it?
You would think, because I mean, I wouldn't think the Jets. I mean, they're not going to be bidding against themselves. I mean, maybe they are, but
Right.
they shouldn't be.
Right. So, like, I was thinking about this the other day. If the Raiders are truly out, and I know Aaron doesn't have a no trade clause, but let's be real, he can still force his way to where he wants to go.
Yes.
And I know people have thrown out Tennessee. Do you think he wants to go to Tennessee when they just released their left tackle? They've got nobody to throw to.
Yeah.
Besides,
they traded AJ Brown last year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know he lives in Tennessee, but I mean, you think Aaron's going to go want to play there? I doubt that. I still don't think they will trade him in the NFC, which takes away half the teams. But maybe you open up that possibility now if it's just the Jets in the AFC. If you want the most bang for your buck, and this is all if either Aaron says he wants to play elsewhere or the Green Bay says, no, we don't want you here anymore. But I was thinking about that the other day. It's like, ooh, could that value be down there a little bit?
Maybe.
I think that value is going on. Again, that's all if
speculative. And if that's
the
way it
Raiders
goes,
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that's
I part of me wants to see the Jets hurry up and sign Derek Carr and then see this organized chaos. Because then where's he going to go?
Yeah.
You know, like the only other team I could think of maybe would the Dolphins get in there. You know, and I don't know what their cap space looks like, but they don't have a first round pick this year. So if Green Bay would want a first round pick this year, Dolphins don't have that.
Yeah.
Remember, they got it forfeited. They got twubble.
Yeah.
A little bit of twubble. So it was the only other team, but they don't have that pick. I don't see Tennessee just from although the AFC South, who knows, I guess. With the Colts.
What about New England?
I thought about that. Yeah, I mean, but I just look at it too, and I'm like, okay, you go to New England, are you still winning a division with Buffalo and Miami? And maybe the Jets?
I don't know.
And I don't know if the Colts would want to go and try to do a veteran thing again.
Yeah.
Ever since, what was it? Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan.
And granted, Aaron Rodgers is the best of that bunch.
Right. But I think we
at
know
some point, in the spot they're in, they can go get a young quarterback because they're a trendy pick to trade with the Bears.
Yeah. I mean, I think we know probably a couple people in the world that would be the most excited about that. One would be Pat McAfee, and one would be probably Ty Schmidt on his show, who's a huge Packers fan. But Aaron's in his town now, so
yeah.
I mean, they would probably be the most.
They can do live Tuesdays with Aaron.
Yeah, they in studio.
In studio
there. I was thinking about that, but I don't know. I still feel like I'm trending towards he's back with Green Bay. And I honestly feel like it's more of like they're stuck with him.
That's and if that's the case, that's just such an interesting domino effect with Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I know a lot of people were like, when Goody was asked about it, when he was asked about, do you want Rodgers back? And he didn't flat out say yes. But I'm of the opinion that he can't say yes in that situation because he's got to play the PR game between Jordan and Aaron.
Yep.
Like if he goes out there and says, yes, I want Aaron back, but then Aaron's not back, or Jordan's like, wait a minute, you don't want me, I want out then. Mm-hmm. Give me a shot somewhere else. Matt LaFleur's already said he wants Aaron back.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's easy for the coach to say that.
Right. The GM almost has to play the mediator or, play both sides, that like that parent that can't pick their favorite kid.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So I feel like he has to kind of balance that. Which on the other hand, he's like, well, yeah, we've been talking with Jordan in his camp all the time and that. Well, you have to.
Right. You better be.
You can afford not to talk to Aaron, but you better still be like pumping up Jordan Love, because I think honestly his ideal thing is probably like, can I keep both again? Yeah. Can I keep both? But I don't know if any of these moves with, pushing more money down the can means anything, but they're about 17 million under the cap now.
Yeah.
And that's without Bakhtiari and Aaron's restructure. So I still feel like it's a little bit more towards Green Bay. That's where I'm going. So, but I'm at that point though, too, just personally. Whatever it is whatever it is.
Yeah, just make your decision. So everything else can kind of start to happen.
Which is completely different from what I was feeling in 2008, 15 years ago tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? 15 years ago? Yeah. Yeah, because 15 years ago tomorrow, I said it earlier, I was in college, living in a house with 4 other dudes, so 5 of us. One of my roommates woke me up. And all he said was turn on the TV, and he walked out. So I turned on the TV and it was there. And I'm like, oh boy, it actually happened. Like I thought he was coming back. In our house, we had one bathroom that was upstairs, and I was upstairs too. But we had a 8x10 frame photo farm outside the bathroom. And I remember walking downstairs. My best friend Jake walked in from class. We just looked at each other. And we hugged. And I remember wearing my Favre jersey to class that day, like a lot of people on UW Eau Claire. I had a professor say that she was going to play the presser in our next class. She never did, so I don't know if she got like told she couldn't. But she said that our next class we were just going to watch the press conference. That night we had some cold ones and we toasted Favre. Like I didn't want it to happen. I got a different feeling now. It's just like, and maybe it's because I've got the fatigue.
Could be.
Of it all. But I agree, like, and I said it, and I know Rich Eisen said it on Dan Patrick's show the other day. He said it perfectly. He said exactly what I said. Do we not forget how long Favre drew all this out? Like everybody's saying they're tired of the drama from Aaron.
Yeah, it was worse of Favre.
Favre's was longer.
Yeah, and more years.
Right. But I think it's all because of social media.
Yes. Yeah, there's more, you have access to more information, so you see it.
Right. It's just, and then I was so glad when he said that. He's like, do people forget about Favre? Like, I remember one time I got up early to watch, because they said he was going to be at a golf thing. And I'm like, oh, and everybody's like, maybe he'll make his decision or maybe. So I got up and watched that thing. And I remember his comment, and this will tell you how long he went through it. He said, it's baseball season. Focus on baseball. That's how long he was taking with some of this stuff. So, but yeah. And maybe some people are kind of tired too because Aaron's like talking where Favre never really talked, but again, it was 08, 07, 06, put Favre in 2023.
Oh my goodness.
I think he would probably do some more talking.
Yeah.
A little bit. Because there's more opportunities.
Yeah, it's
to talk to.
You have more options to kind of get your narrative out there yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Plain T says he's really nailing. He's calling his shot.
Is he?
Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. So Plain T. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'm going to set an alarm right now on my cell phone. I'm doing it. 1 p.m. tomorrow. How about that? I already had an alarm for 1 p.m. So I'll just put that for tomorrow. That is, one day. That goes off and we got nothing, Plain T. You owe me a beer. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right, Brandon. So you got a busy schedule. Where are you going to? Do you know your schedule yet, or you're?
Yeah, I'm watching that camera go.
Oh, is it moving again?
It did.
God.
It took a peek over.
I apologize to everybody. I keep hitting it with my leg because it's a short cord, so it keeps moving.
I think my plan for tonight is I'm going to spend a little time at the Steel game. They have a 2-game set this weekend with Janesville.
Must win kind of sort
pretty
of thing.
Much you're in that spot, by the way. Teachers getting free teacher appreciation. So if you're a teacher, you want to go watch game?
Tomorrow one's is a good one too because they're auctioning off their green jerseys.
Correct.
Yep.
And then probably bop up to McDonald to see some McDonald and Rib Lake. A little Chippewa County versus Taylor County action.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. This is weird. So the XFL, the Guardians cut their quarterback Quentin Dormady after he allegedly gave an opposing team plays from the Guardians playbook. The team heard about it, investigated it, and released him. They also removed his stats from the website.
Jeez. He looks like he kind of looks like Andrew Luck's younger brother.
Who?
He looks like Andrew Luck's younger brother.
I mean,
and who coaches the Guardians? Terrell Buckley.
Oh, T-Buck. T-Buck this was when he wasn't that good. It was when he was with the Packers. That was the ultimate trash talk in the elementary school playgrounds in Medford for us. You play like T-Buck. And I think everybody just envisions, was it Michael Irvin with that slant, just burning him with that. I mean, he had a nice career with Miami and New England after that. But when you come in and say you're the next, Jim Thorpe? I think that's what he was saying. Like best athlete? Yeah, it's no go.
And now seeing the quote tweets from the picture, now people are saying he looks like a combination of Andrew Luck and Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Which
I
now
was going to
I
say-
see it. Which now I see it.
Yep, because
Yep.
that's why I asked you, who'd you say? Because the other person
I
I
said
thought
Andrew
was
Luck.
yeah, because the other person I thought of was Kirk Cousins with a beard.
Yep.
So, yep, I can see both.
Dude, like
It's like if Andrew Luck and Kirk Cousins had a kid.
that dude is never playing football again. Like that's one of those things. Like I don't. You know, no one's gonna bring him in.
Like,
for that.
what's the point? You're in the XFL and you're doing that? Like, what are you
dude.
trying to
My
accomplish?
dude?
What are you trying to do?
Jack Cohn wouldn't do that.
Hey, AJ McCarron, if you listen to The Rock, took less money to
Yeah.
play in the XFL. I hope The Rock was the one who told him to get out. All right.
People's elbow on the way out.
Best of luck to the Blue Goals this weekend as well and tonight. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you Monday.